I don't know. I'm so glad that I was able to say all the things that I said in the first hour, and I'm hoping that we can continue in that same vein today. I thought that, I'm not even through my first sermon, okay? So here I have a dilemma. So what am I going to do? So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to start by telling you a way to love that you may have never thought of. I know that I did. When I first seen this, I was kind of surprised. It's kind of simple, and it's this. The way to express love to any other individual, including God, so Carl's right here, right? So I'm looking at Carl, and I'm giving Carl my complete attention, okay? You know why that's love, to give your complete attention? Because you're giving yourself to that person. So that's an unusual way to express love, but it is love. It's what God does for us. God gives us his complete attention. How about that? Yeah, I like that. There was something that I left out in my sermon, my previous message. So I wanted to give you that. And it's about creation. Again, we talked about creation real fast, and it was that creation was out of God. It wasn't out of nothing. Okay? So when God created, he created out of himself. Okay? But with the sun, moon, and the stars, and people in his creation here on earth, what he also created at the same time was his laws to govern and to give role and function to everything, and to have specific laws that came forth in the creation, no matter what it was, there's law. Okay, remember when I said that in New Thought, it's enlarging our concepts of God, and God is law. God himself is law. He sends forth his law with all his creation, and it works infinitely with his creation. Okay? So that was something that I had left out. And I thought that's very significant, because when I first got on the phone with Dan about all this stuff, I kept saying to him, I said, Dan, I said, there seems to be a law for everything. And there is. And guess what? All those laws that God has, they're actually for you. They're not against you. They're for you. Everything that God does is for us. What we do to ourselves is against us. Being our own worst enemies, okay, which is the expression of speech, and that's actually where, I don't like bringing this stuff up right here now, but I guess I've already put my foot in my mouth. But this is where the devil in each one of us. So now that I've gone there, I might as well continue. I didn't mean to even go this way, but it's okay because this is a teaching point, okay? The devil in us is our lower nature. We have a higher nature and a lower nature, okay? And that's the whole concept of consciousness. People that live consciously in their lower natures, they're rascals. Okay, I'm just going to put it that way to be polite, okay? There are actually people that are living in a lower level of consciousness than domestic animals. Okay, murderers, for instance, terrorists. Okay, so I need to get away from this because the other things I have to say is just as significant, I should say. But anyway, that has to do, so this is what I've been learning about how the mind works. And so within the mind, I'm going to just go ahead and state this because it's easier just to say it than to read, 10 pages or whatever, which is what I wanted to do. So the way that our mind works, how does our mind work? We have will and we have consciousness, okay? The will is the thing that makes choices in us, okay? And the consciousness, we have only one conscious and only one mind. We don't have two minds. There are people who are double-minded, okay? We say that they're double-minded. They're actually not. What they're doing is they're living in their lower level of consciousness, and at times they're living at higher levels of consciousness. So they're living at both in one. Okay, the whole concept of consciousness is getting control of that lower level in spirit and raising it up to higher levels of consciousness. And so, okay, so the highest level of consciousness is what? It's God consciousness. That's your highest level of consciousness. You always have that level. But that level can actually expand and move higher as you learn new spiritual truth. Spiritual truth is what pushes it upwards, higher. And you can live there in that place of communion with God, which is what we really want. Okay? And so, God, and that's the whole thing about being the new man. The new man's living at the higher level and not the lower level. When people are saying they're backsliding and all this business, okay, that's because they've reverted into their old self. They're out of control. They're out of control, out of God's control. Okay, because you actually can't control yourself in some respects, in a lot of respects. Okay, will is pretty cool. So in will, there's decisive will. Not decisive. Desire will. First, there's desire will. You have desires. That's the things that you want in life and desire, and things that you want to do. You desire to do them. Okay? Then there's decisive will, which is decision will. Okay? Then before you make that final decision, you go into your subconsciousness, gives you information about what you want or do, and it tells you if it's safe or unsafe, and so many other different things. It's just unbelievable what the subconscious does. It's a huge, our subconscious is actually larger in proportion and has more duties and responsibilities than our actual conscious mind, okay? Because we've been feeding it all our life, feeding it, and then storing as a memory in our conscious mind. And then when you need something, the information comes forth from your subconscious mind into your consciousness. And then the will takes over, okay? And then the final place of will is the action will, okay? Which is volition, okay? Now, here's the thing about will. We use our will really in the wrong ways, which we try to control other people. Did you know that God has no interest in even controlling you at all? He's giving you free will. And since I'm talking about free will, I have to bring up God's will. Okay? Because God's will is higher than free will. And what God is looking for is the surrender of free will into God's will. So that now your will and God's will are one. That's oneness. Okay? So the will, from what I've been studying in the science of mind, which is new thought, which is what we're talking about today, all this business up here, prosperity, nothing wrong with prosperity. Prosperity is abundance of life. And God has abundance of life. That's what's wrong with the world right now. The world does not know the abundance of God. And what does that do? It makes it so there are some people that think we got to get rid of people. So depopulate the earth. They don't believe in the abundance of God. Okay? The world has plenty in it to take care of everyone, but man has to think about it, get with God about it, and God will take care of business, right? God takes care of us. So getting back to the will part, because this is what the interesting part is this. The will's continually making choices about things, nonstop. We make choices every little thing. Just me moving my hand out to here, I just made a choice. Okay, I brought it back in. Hey, hand. And God's design for the will was this, though, from what I've learned. His design for the will was to use it to control what we put into our heart, into our subconsciousness. Actually, I would say at this point, the subconscious is the heart of man, okay? Because it controls everything, the memory, Your subconsciousness actually controls your nervous system, all your body parts, and everything, okay, without you even knowing it. At times you can bring conscious awareness to parts of your body, okay, because every part of your body has a center of conscious awareness, okay? And so, see, this is getting kind of big, okay, as far as thinking about, what does the mind do? Okay, and so God gives us a will, and really what he wanted us to use it for the most was making that decision, of good and evil, to make the decision of what are you going to let into your consciousness, into your subconsciousness actually, okay? And the consciousness actually is more of a controller of the will, our actual consciousness, okay? So this is getting kind of like, it's good stuff actually in the long run, because now when you make choices, look, in this will process, if you skip the decision part of it, you have a desire, and then you skip all the way over to choice or action, and you leave the decision out of it, it's usually a rash decision, okay? And we know that. We've done that. You don't even go through the decision process, you just do it, okay? And depending upon what the circumstances is, it could be good or bad, okay? But here's the deal on our minds, okay? You're inputting into yourself all kinds of stuff. And if you allow things to come into you that are of the negative sort, or evils, or hatred, okay, it isn't going to do you any good, of course, but it's going to come back out. Because this is the way that people describe, in New Thought at least, the subconsciousness. That it's a garden. It's a garden. And you're planting thoughts into your garden. You're planting good thoughts and bad thoughts. And then it comes forth in time. It comes forth. And then, as a result, it results in your life. Okay? So God, as far as God's will is concerned, he never interfered with me and my wife as far as me choosing her or her choosing me. He doesn't interfere with our free will. That's outside the boundary of his laws. If he did something like that and break his own laws, you might have a catastrophe in the universe. Okay? And I'm serious about this. But God doesn't. God knows but God has his own boundaries, which are basically unlimited boundaries. Okay? And in that respect, free will is a very real thing. Okay? So in religion, it's always been either predestination or free will. Okay? Those were your choices. Okay? But they never took it to the next level. Either of them. The next level was God's will. Okay? Now, for years, I've been saying that I'm neither an Arminian or a Calvinist. Because I knew about this before, even though I didn't understand it, about how the will actually work, but I knew that God's will was above those two things. And that is what really matters. Okay? That's just my little spiel on that. Okay, so I thought, since I didn't finish what I was going to do, I'm going to try to do something. I'm going to try to do this without stopping and preaching. It's going to be nearly impossible, but I'm going to try. Okay? So here you go. This is from the Message of New Thought. It's the blue book that's in the back, chapter 1, and I'm going to read from it. Because this is what I want you to know anyway, okay, of all the things, even though it's all really cool stuff and interesting. But this is really what I want to persuade you with, okay? So this is from a book called The Message of New Thought by Abel Allen, not related to James, I don't think, Allen. New thought is not, as many believe, a name or expression employed to define any fixed system of thought, philosophy, or religion, but is a term used to convey the idea of growing or developing thought. In considering this subject, the word new should be duly and freely emphasized because the expression new thought relates only to what is new and progressive. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with progressives in politics, okay? First of all, this book was written before, early 1900s, very early 1900s. It would be a misuse of terms to apply the expression new thought to a system of thought. Because when thought is molded and formed into a system, it ceases to be new. When a system of thought has reached maturity and ceases to grow, expand, and develop, it can no longer be defined by the word new. It follows, therefore, as a necessary conclusion that no system of new thought or no system of thought defined by that expression now exists or ever can exist. New thought is the result or creation of perpetually advancing mind. The growing mind is not content with the past or its achievements. It is not satisfied with systems of philosophy or religion originating in other ages or handed down through succeeding generations. They do not satisfy the wants of the mind. Systems do not grow. Mind develops. It wants something larger and better. It wants improvement, growth, and development. By the way, God gives us all this, okay? Outside of even religion. Religion is what? It's a way of life. And I'm not putting down religion because I'm for it. I'm for religion, okay? Even non-Christianity, believe it or not. I mean, I better get back into my thing before I get myself in trouble, because people aren't going to understand this. They're not going to understand me saying, hey, if this thing works in a country and it keeps people civilized, okay, God's taking care of all this anyway. People have no idea how much God is taking care of us. Okay? Okay, where am I here? The growing mind is not content with the past or its achievements. It is not satisfied with systems of philosophy. Okay, I read that. They do not satisfy the mind. Systems do not grow. Mind develops. It wants something larger and better. It wants improvement, growth, and development. It is merely the logical and natural effort of the mind in its struggle for advancement. It is following its basic and inherent law. Okay? So our minds actually follow inherent laws from God. As the growing mind applies thought at whatever enters into consciousness, it gains new and enlarged conceptions, and therefore grows. And what it thinks it knew is new. And what it thinks is new. New thought has been defined as the latest product of growing mind. Distinguished writer has characterized new thought as an attitude of mind and not a cult. Here's attitude of mind. You've probably heard the word metaphysical. It has the meaning of, what does it have a meaning of? It means beyond, okay, yeah, okay. It means beyond the law of physics, okay? That's what metaphysics is, okay? Beyond the law of physics. You know what's beyond the law of physics? The spiritual. And it's the law of God. That's what we're looking for, the spiritual realm, the kingdom of God which is in us. And it is in us. And so wherever I am, did you know that where God is? The Bible says that God is in heaven, right? When the Lord's Prayer, God is in heaven. It's not the Lord's Prayer, Susan? Well, anyway, whatever. God is in heaven, okay? Well, where is heaven? The kingdom of God, heaven is within you. So that's where God is at. He's in you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Wow. That's where God's at. The attitude of mind. Okay, so what we should really have is a metaphysical attitude. And since you don't probably like that word, I'm just going to say the attitude that we should have is the spiritual attitude. We should have a spiritual attitude, okay? And you can. You can have a spiritual attitude. Because up here, just tell yourself, I'm going to have a spiritual attitude. You're depositing that down into your subconsciousness, and it's going to come forth. Spiritual attitude will come forth. I'm going to tell you something really hilarious. Okay, the whole time that I had idea of a book giveaway, I kept thinking of Rose. I says, I would like Rose to have this. And so we wrote all the names on playing deck cards, all the people that come to this church. And sure enough, Rose's name was pulled. Why? It was actually the dominant thought in my mind. And it came to pass. That's actually how our mind works. And what happens is this here, because God is behind us and in us and through us, then bang, God's working. The things that we desire, God gives us. You've actually determined your own life by all the choices that you made, and God did not interfere. The things that you possess, the things that you think, God does not interfere. We voluntarily submit ourselves to God. Right now, you where you're sitting at, you've actually volunteered to listen to me. It's voluntary. That's the only reason why I can try to persuade you to move forward in spiritual things and concepts. Okay? Those who grasp the true meaning of and spirit of New Thought, or as it is sometimes called progressive or unfolding thought, do not conceive that a finished or completed system of thought, either philosophically or religiously, or is a possibility. Okay, so they don't believe that New Thought can be a system. Okay, they think it's an impossibility because our thoughts keep growing, keep moving. All systems of thought change with the flight of time. Decay follows growth. The philosophies and religions of today differ from those of yesterday, and those of tomorrow will be unlike those of today. History alone demonstrates the truth of this statement. This conclusion is inevitable, I can't even say that word, also from the very laws that govern man's growth and existence. Man's body is not the only result of processes of evolution, growth, and development, but his mind is likewise the product of the same great law. Our minds are evolving. Man is an evolved and evolving being, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Change and growth are the silent mandates of divinity. The eternal current ever moves onward. We do not reckon with all of nature's forces. Back of all, unseen yet all-powerful, is the one universal law or cosmic urge, which is God, forever pushing and projecting man forward into higher physical, mental, and spiritual development. Through the principle of evolution, physical man was brought to his present state of development. Okay, so now I'm going to just bring this up. Okay, so a lot of the people that are involved in this movement do believe in Darwinism. I'm not going to hide that from you. They do. But you know what? I don't let that poison the well. I'm not going to let it poison my well, because I know there's things that they know that I don't know, and I want to know them. And I do know them now, and I'm glad I learned it. Someday I might read a little bit more about our man Darwin. I don't know if I'm going to have the time or not. It doesn't matter. But the point is this here. Is it true? And how do I know it's true? Because a lot of it is right in here. The whole thing about the mind. These people use the Bible quite a bit. It seems to me that sometimes they're a little soft on the Bible. In other words, they use it softly, without dogmatism or creed or force. And I got to tell you, I do like that. When I moved from one unholy position to a different position, I was like in the King James movement, and I was so hardcore, it didn't matter. I was hardcore. Okay, as long as we're talking about that. And what happened was, then when I ran into Cornelius Stam in the Berean movement, it was like, hey, what happened to the hate? The hate's gone. And I was like completely happy about the hate was gone. Okay? I just want to tell you this little story, since it's coming into my mind. So there was this Jewish guy that I worked with for years. He was like the best die sinker that I knew, which is I was a die sinker. I was like a D, you know, A, B, C, D. I was like a D, okay? The only thing that got me through work was that I stayed at it. I was a hard worker, right? And I knew that I had to do that because I wasn't as skilled like some of these other guys. This guy was so skilled, he could do anything in die working. But he always said to me, Tim, He says, live and let live. And he had to say that to me quite a few times. I never understood it when he was saying it to me. I'm going to tell you, I was so biased about living and let live, I couldn't do it. Because my mentality was to convert to my way, whatever my way was, fundamentalism, whatever, to get people saved and all this. I just couldn't get past that and allow people to live. Now you say, well, you mean I don't witness? No, I witness. Trust me, I witness. I love the witness. I love to tell people about God. But there's a time and a place for it. Okay? But he would say it to me, and I never got the message. I never did get the message until the future, after he was gone. Okay? Because he said it so often to me, I'm going, I just don't agree. And I agree now. Live and let live. Because God's in control. What am I in control of? Anyway, I'm not in control of you, Carl, am I? No. You have your own mind. Your mind is equal to my mind. Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to share that. That's kind of cool. Wow. Okay. I'm going to reread this. Through the principle of evolution, physical man, that's where I got off there because I had to explain, I'm reading a book. I read a book on the will. I never read a book on the will like that before. I have several of them, about 4 or 5. This one was fantastic. I get done reading it, and then I'm going and I look in Wikipedia and I'm reading this guy's name and stuff and who he is or whatever. It ends up that he believes in reincarnation. I'm going, man. Now, you know what? I didn't let that poison my well. I'm just going to take and move it aside, and I'm going to drink. Okay? Because as far as I'm concerned, that guy's a genius compared to me. Even believing in reincarnation. I don't understand reincarnation. I don't care to learn about it. I have some books on it. I haven't looked at them. I haven't opened them. But someday I will. But there's too much more to live by than to let somebody's opinion and belief to get in my way from allowing them to contribute to me. That's what I talked about the last time, about contribution. Everyone has a contribution to each other, okay? And it could be the fruit of their life, which is a book. A book is the fruit of someone's life. Okay, so it is a principle operating throughout the universe. Evolution is a movement from the lower to the higher. See, and I like that. I can get that. Our minds are evolving from the lower consciousness to higher consciousness. Okay? There's actually a man who's actually made a chart of all these spots, and he puts people's names in there. And I find it interesting, and I also agree with him. My wife kind of rolls her eyes. I roll my one eye. She rolls both her eyes. Evolution is a movement from the lower to the higher, from the simple to the complex, from the inferior to the superior. How can there be a fixed system of thought, a complete philosophy, a perfect theology, or a defined religion? For as man grows mentally and spiritually, he moves away from such limitations. As his mental and spiritual visions expand, the very laws of his being lead him to higher and still higher conceptions of philosophical and religious truth. Through spiritual evolution are we led to God. Every system of philosophy or religion is a result of an evolutionary process, the product of the human mind and understanding. When thoughts change, when the mind develops, when the understanding is enlarged, philosophies and religions must likewise change. This is a self-evident truth. Where otherwise, systems of thought, philosophies, and religions would be greater than the minds that created them and launched them upon the world. The things created would be greater than their creators. Were it not so, systems that have no inherent power of growth, that's why I keep talking about the ceiling. There's a ceiling that you reach. When you reach that ceiling, you know what? You want to break through to more truth. That's why the ceiling's there. You get to the ceiling, And you can break. And then you get a whole bunch of more truth. Because truth is beyond truth. There is always truth beyond truth. And then bang, you're at the ceiling again. And you break the ceiling. Truth is infinite, just as God is infinite, which we've already said that. Moreover, fixed systems of thought, either philosophical or religious, are impossible because they are not the same to any two persons, but convey different meanings to each individual. No two persons think alike or have the same conception or understanding of any important subject, least of all of a philosophical or religious subject. Did you know that Jesus Christ had a philosophy? I actually have a book on that. The Philosophy of Jesus Christ. It's a whole 60 pages. It's incredible. And I really got to rush reading that. The Philosophy of Jesus Christ. I've never heard of such a thing before, that anyone would ever say something like that. Of course he has a philosophy. He has the philosophy of God. Well, there you go. No two individuals are alike or think alike. Duplicates have never been discovered in all the broad domain of nature. Scientists tell us that even the molecules of which our bodies are composed differ one from the other. This is now it's getting into like a little poem here. No two men in creation think alike. No two men in creation look alike. No two men in creation are alike. No worlds or suns or heavens, but are distinct and wear a separate beauty. Okay, that's all right. I'm good with that. No individual can convey his thoughts, ideas, and impressions entire to another. When a person prepares for like a sermon, he gives like about 10% out of 100% that he's prepared for. Okay? It's just the way it is in public speaking. Because you can't express yourself completely to people, what you really want them to hear. You do the best you can. It's partial. Limited. Language, either written or spoken, is but a symbol, and at best an imperfect vehicle to convey thought. The meaning of truth is deflected in its transmission. Thought is deeper than speech, feeling deeper than thought. Souls to souls can never teach what to themselves is taught. Now, I want to read this because this is a cool statement, okay? Thought is deeper than speech. That's pretty cool. Feeling is deeper than thought. Feeling is deeper than thought. Okay? See, this stuff here. I got to tell you, I've never heard none of this. Not the way these people explain this. And it's almost like how you have Baptist, not Baptist, Presbyterians, and the whole bit. It's the same thing in this New Thought message, except for they're people that are coming out of the churches and they're finding New Thought, and they see that there's something more expansive and more spiritual than what they had previously been introduced to, which is the draw, right? The mental and spiritual visions of man differ as the stars differ in magnitude. The same light does not shine with equal brilliancy on the pathway of each individual. What is light to one may be a shadow to another. Nor are our ideas changeless and fixed. Our thoughts, concepts, and understanding change with the advancing years as the soul receives new influx of light. And this explains people that mellow out when they get older. They've had so many experiences in their life. They now see what's healthy and what's not healthy. And they roll with the punch. They've rolled with the punches. As each morning bathes the earth in new light, so each returning day and every recurring season brings new meanings and understandings to the soul. The greatest gift from God to man is a growing mind. I just have to tell you, God is giving of himself to us. He gives us his infinite attributes. Those attributes cannot be contained. That's what makes up wholeness. And that wholeness he wants us to experience, his very attributes. The words of Jesus Christ are words spoken in spirit and truth. Christ spoke spiritual words. His words can be our words. That's why sometimes in the morning I start out and I say this: I and my Father are one. They're the words of Christ. They are words of spirit. Now I'm speaking them, words of spirit. I'm saying, you say that's crazy stuff. I say, no, it's not. It's exactly what God wants. He wants me to be one with him. He wants me to be one with his Son. Do you see the value in this? You know what? We read in the other thing a story that really touched Rose's heart about Byron Katie. And she was insane. Her daughter was so afraid of her that she couldn't even come in her room. She just tried to avoid her mother. Her mother ends up, what happened to her. But look at this. What if her daughter had been going to a Sunday school and was indoctrinated in Christian principles? And she walked up to her mother in her insanity, whispered into her ear, and said, "Peace, be still." It gives me the chills. And if she had faith and belief and knew that those were words of spirit, you never know. She might not have gone through some of what she went through. It could have been, sooner. She could have been healed of her insanity sooner than what it was, is what I'm trying to say. But all through the New Testament, the four Gospels and Paul's writings, whatever, right? All those are words of spirit. And they're meant for us to use them. There's so many things in the Bible that we think it's impossible. Okay? Greater things will you do than what I've done? Okay? I mean, are those empty words? Or was there meaning behind them? Obviously there was. He wouldn't have said them. Okay? And whatever is being said in the Bible, and then of course there's the great line of, my words will not return unto me void. Okay? So they're not empty at all. There's nothing empty in Scripture. It's all for us. Okay? So anyway, I was getting off track here, but that's kind of like stuff that I like to just say to people when I have the chance, okay? Because I honestly believe that the words of Christ were spirit words from his Father, and I can express the same thing, okay? That means I allowed them into myself, and now by impression, and then by expression, it's coming forth back out of me, okay? And you've been doing this your whole life. We all have. Like I said from the beginning, from the first day that we opened the Bible up, we began to renew our minds through reading Scripture. Okay, so I was at the greatest gift from God to man is a growing mind, one that expands from day to day as the light of truth breaks upon it. Were it otherwise, were our ideas fixed and changeless, life would be intolerable and existence a sterile waste. Okay? Now this makes a lot of sense to me. If God didn't give us a mind that can change and grow, we would be changeless. And then we would be automatons. It is the new conception that thrills the soul and broadens the understanding as the influx of new life brings physical health and growth. In the search for truth, each ultimate fact becomes a cause, a starting point for the discovery of more truth. Okay, so I don't have time to talk about cause and effect, but they are one. If there's an effect, that means there was a cause. God is the primordial first cause. Oh, this is good, so I'm going to continue with it. God is the primordial first cause. All his creation is the effect. Now, he made us in his image and his likeness. He made us to do things that he can do, which means co-create. Okay? So we are actually, God is the primordial first cause. We are the secondary cause. Our minds are the secondary cause. Because we can create with our mind, co-create. You design a building, and then you go live in it, a house. That's co-creation. Because you thought of it, and you decided that, hey, that's what I want. Then will's involved. But the thing is that house is the effect of the cause, of you thinking about it. And all through your life, this is the way that it's been for all of us. Cause and effect, continuously. There cannot be one without the other. If there's no cause, there's no effect. If there's no effect, there was no cause. Okay? And God's the primal cause. You are a secondary cause. He created you in his likeness and image so that you can create your life. Okay? I just think that's pretty good stuff. Okay? And I'm hoping that we can talk about it more. And I'm hoping that Dan incorporates all this stuff later in future messages when he gets acclimated to all this. Because it is a lot. Whoa. It's a lot of stuff. But it's a lot of good stuff. A man renews his mind and reaches out for larger conceptions of truth. His understanding is enlarged. He gains new viewpoints. His expanded thought is translated and externalized into life. He grows, he advances, he comes into a closer union with God. That's what this is about. Thought is not final. What we last think may be our best thought, but it is not our ultimate thought. It is only the foregleams of greater thought. We may not encompass the whole truth, but we can enlarge our conceptions of truth and thus bring ourselves nearer the reality. We are all alive, move, and have our being, and that's from where? Acts chapter 17. So Paul's preaching to these people and he's not even throwing the gospel at them. He doesn't throw the gospel at them in that chapter. What he throws at them is that God is creator, and that we live and move and have our being in God. That's what he tells them because of the monument to the unknown God. Okay? It is not susceptible of monopoly or systematization. It is not encompassed by institutions, but its living spirit is present in every manifested form and object of nature. Okay, I need to go back here and see. We all live and move and have our being in an atmosphere of truth. Truth is only assimilated by the individual. Truth is not susceptible of monopoly. There's no monopoly on truth. I'm going back over this for my own self because it threw me off. I was wondering what it was talking about. It's talking about truth, okay? So truth, there's no monopoly or systemization of truth, even though you have what's known as systematic theology, which I'm very familiar with. I've read actually the entire book. It was 2 volumes or whatever. It is not encompassed by the institutions, but its living spirit is present in every manifested form and object of nature. Okay? I have all kinds of stuff. I mean, here I have one here, the use of the spiritual or the superconscious mind. I didn't tell you about the superconscious mind. Superconscious mind, obviously, is the mind of God. And that mind of God is within our consciousness because there's a communion there in our mind. And our consciousness is actively thinking. You know, you go from thinking to thoughts. You know, and then your thoughts, God actually materializes your thought just as he materialized heaven and earth. Wow. Did you just hear me? God materializes your thoughts. Wow, that's mysticism. Okay? It's not, the average Joe isn't going to preach that from the pulpit. Okay? I don't know why they wouldn't. I think if they knew, they probably would. Okay? That's the thing about mankind. Man wants to know the truth. Man wants to do the right thing for the most part. Why wouldn't he? Because that's what gives you health. Health of body is doing the right thing, learning the right thing. These people do get into mental healing, and it's real. But they don't make a big show about it. Like, in some of the churches or whatever that have healing services and stuff. No, it's private. Okay? They teach you how to take care of yourself in the mind. And, okay, so what happens? This is interesting because this is science. This is science. Your thoughts are actually vibrations. Those vibrations actually penetrate your body, and they cause chemical change within you. Okay? This is science. That's why it's science of the mind. Okay? And then the chemical change, determines, your good health. If you think angry thoughts all the times, that's going to affect organs in your body. If you're angry and hateful, it actually can cause restrictions in your body. And that's why some people actually look angry. Because they've been angry for so long, it starts to show on their face. This is just common sense, isn't it? Okay, it's common sense, okay? And so at this point, there's a lot to learn about this new thought. I just encourage you to look into it. Okay? Now look at Wikipedia really poison this well in a lot of ways, but it's okay. I'm going to tell you, they're not telling lies about it. Okay? They're not saying things maliciously about New Thought. Okay? Because New Thought teachers come from all kinds of ranges. Okay? There's Hindu New Thought teachers. Okay? This New Thought is a big thing in Japan. In certain places in Japan, okay? And it's okay, because why can't people share in the knowledge of how God has created us? They may not be confirming that God is, but you know what? Live and let live. Live and let live. So, okay. Listen, if you have any questions about any of this, and it's good with me, what happens on Zoom, though, when there's questions, when you guys talk on Zoom, nobody hears a word you're saying. And the only thing, to make it profitable, Dan, is do you repeat whatever that person says and then answer it. And that way we know what they're saying, okay? Otherwise, there would need to be a floating mic, with the people or whatever. So, and that would probably be, I don't know if you can even arrange that. But anyway, that's just a concept. Okay, let's just close in prayer then. Our Father, you've been so good to me in my life, and for all the things you've given me, and you brought me out of darkness into light. And I'm really surprised, Lord, that it's more than light. It's actually you. You've brought me into you. And for that, I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for the people who have ears to hear and eyes to see. And so bless us this week, and thank you. Amen.